In this video, we will look at configuring static routing options. Static routing is generally used in smaller networks that only require one route to access the internet. We will use an example of a small office. The size of the office isn't expected to grow significantly, and the network usage is very stable. Before you begin to configure routing on the FortiGate, please make sure you get the applicable ISP information, such as your assigned IP address, DNS, and gateway. Next, we will review the two common scenarios for static routing: DHCP and adding static routing manually. In order to use the DHCP mode, check with the ISP to make sure they provide the DHCP server mode. If they do, DHCP is the easiest way to configure static routing. This way, the FortiGate and the internal PCs will get the gateway and DNS information from the ISP router. In our example, the FortiGate has two interfaces in use, one connected to the internal network and one connected to the external network. To configure the external interface, go to Network Interfaces and edit the external interface. We will use Upstream for the alias name. Set the addressing mode. Configure the administrative access and save the changes. Next, configure the internal interface. We will use Downstream for the alias name. Set the addressing mode. Configure the administrative access. Enable DHCP server option if desired. DHCP mode will allow FortiGate interface to dynamically assign IPs to the internal computers. This configuration enables all internal PCs with DHCP interface to get a default route. Next, we are going to configure a firewall policy. In most cases, configuring an outbound firewall policy is all that's needed to connect the internal network to the internet. Go to Policy and Objects, Firewall Policy. Create a new policy. In our case, we already have an outbound policy configured. Here are the details on the policy settings. Configure the incoming and the outgoing interfaces. Set the source to the computer addresses or computer group that require internet access. Set the destination to all. Set the rest of the parameters as shown here. Enable NAT. Enable security profiles to protect the traffic. Enable and save this policy. If all the configuration settings are correct, the internal computers will be able to connect to the internet now. In some cases, the ISP does not support DHCP server option, and you will have to configure static routing manually. In this case, go to Network Static Routes. FortiGate comes with the default route configured. Click Edit and provide the values for the gateway and the external interface. Save the changes. All the traffic will now use this route to access the internet. The rest of the configurations will be the same as for the DHCP case above. Now let's look at some of the testing steps in case the internal computers are not able to access the internet. We will start troubleshooting steps from the FortiGate to the internal PC. Depending on your circumstances, you may skip to a specific step. First, we are going to check if FortiGate is able to ping out. From the command line interface prompt, we will try pinging the primary Google DNS server. If the ISP provides a DHCP option, but FortiGate cannot ping out, that means that FortiGate was not assigned an IP address. Check if the FortiGate external interface gets the IP address. If FortiGate gets an IP address, try pinging the ISP gateway IP. If FortiGate can reach the ISP gateway, that can indicate either ISP problem or an issue with the FortiGate default route. Check to see that the FortiGate default static route is properly configured. If FortiGate is able to access the internet, then test the internal PC connections. If internal PC is not getting IP address or cannot ping the gateway, this can indicate that the internal PC cannot find the gateway. It could be due to the physical connection failure or misconfiguration on the FortiGate internal network interface. A variation of this problem is when the internal PC gets an IP address and can ping the gateway, but cannot ping out. In this case, make sure that the FortiGate policies are set correctly. And this concludes our video. Thank you for watching. For more videos, please visit video.fortinet.com.